Wat als filantropie niet zou bestaan? We nodigen jullie tijdens deze closing sessie graag uit om te reflecteren over de ware kracht van filantropie door haar even weg te denken. In de wereld van vandaag, die gekenmerkt wordt door spanningen en door verdeeldheid, is deze filosofische denkoefening broodnodig. Is filantropie een tijdelijke pleister op de wonden of een onmisbare pijler van onze gedeelde toekomst? Quelle lacune comble-t-elle? Quel rêve rend-elle possible? In order to tackle these questions, please give a warm welcome to the Chief Philanthropy Officer of the King Baudouin Foundation, Ludwig Forest, and his guests.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, what if philanthropy would not exist? First conclusion of this session, we would obviously not be all together here in this beautiful outer world. That would be a pity, but that's not a sufficient reason. So we have to continue. So again, what if philanthropy would not exist? Thank you all for joining this session, for this unusual question, for this thought experience. No putting any pressure on you, obviously. Before turning to the panel, let me pay tribute to the person that inspired this session. A trainee, I cannot say her name, GDPR reasons in Europe, but a trainee, 3 weeks at the Center for Philanthropy, and I gave her the impossible mission in July 25. Yes, we are preparing this event since nearly more than 1 year. I said, give me some ideas for sessions for bee philanthropy. And she gave me 3 or 4 very good ones, but she also said, you should do a session on what if philanthropy would not exist. I will quote her, because it's quite interesting. I will quote her, it's in French. I have to take my glasses off, sorry for that. So, she said, que relève l'absence de la philanthropie sur son rôle réel dans la société d'aujourd'hui? Est-elle pilier du bien commun ou un correctif temporaire à un système défaillant? After 3 weeks of internship at the Center for Philanthropy at the King Baudouin Foundation, I looked to her and I said, of course, I had this idea as well, but congrats. So, what if philanthropy would not exist? Apparently, some researchers say that philanthropy in 2024 represents 1.5 trillion US dollars from individual givers. They say that an estimated 64 to 73% of the world's adult population helped others, gave time or money in 24. In Europe, and thank you to ERNOP, the European Research Network on Philanthropy, that is publishing its new study, but in Europe it is said that Europeans give probably more, but at least 100 billion every year as philanthropic donations. 60 billion from individuals, 20 billion from corporates, and 20 billion from foundations. Philea says that there are 175,000 foundations in Europe, and they have a capital of 560 billion. And you saw earlier this morning that 6 Belgians out of 10 give to philanthropic causes. But philanthropy is not only figures. And that is the responsibility of this panel to prove that or to deny that. So I will start with one very simple question to you all. And Tina, if you allow, I will start with you, so you can introduce yourself, you can say the beautiful organization you're working with, and obviously we have, for the four of you, it's an enormous honor for me to have you on my side for this plenary closing session. So Tina, what is your past, current, but obviously also future link with philanthropy, and why is philanthropy important to you and for the general interest? So why is philanthropy important to you, and what is your link with philanthropy? Over to you.
My link with philanthropy. Well, the first one is obvious. So my job is, I am delighted to be here, first of all, and thank you very much to KBF for hosting me and my colleagues, Stephanie, who is actually here at home in Brussels, our Obama staff person here in Belgium, to this amazing conference. And looking out at all of you, it is just the energy and the spirit is so inspiring to see all of you. But my role is I'm the Executive Vice President of Programs for the Obama Foundation. So this is the foundation created by President Obama after his departure from the White House. And we operate programs around the world, including a leaders program that has a cohort here in Europe. And we have several of our Obama Europe leaders here in the room, as well as we will be opening the Obama Presidential Center in Chicago in June of 2026. So just about 80 days from now, not that I'm counting or anything. And so the obvious question is, what does philanthropy mean to me? And my relationship is, I actually wouldn't have a job without philanthropy. And we would not, importantly, have been able to build the Obama Presidential Center or operate the foundation without philanthropy, because unlike other presidential libraries of the past, we are not government funded at all. We are 100% philanthropy funded, which has allowed us, and it's one of the questions I think we can talk about the role of philanthropy, that has allowed us, as you might say, in the current environment, without going deeper, in the current environment to be able to operate the Obama Foundation with the mission and the values that we believe are most important, without fear of censorship. Be able to pursue and open the Presidential Center in the way that President Obama and Mrs. Obama, their vision for that, without fear of how other interference may occur. And I do think that that is one of the great opportunities that philanthropy provides, is in a moment where one needs it, it gives you that freedom and ability to extend yourself and to be who you are and what you want to be as an organization, as an advocacy group, as what we are trying to do, which is to promote democratic values around the world.
Thank you, Tina. From US to Asia, Nena, you know how much I would like to send you flowers for everything what you do in Asia, but I leave you the honor to tell it yourself.
Thank you, Ludwig. I'm Nena Batra, and I'm the CEO of AVPN, which is the largest network for organizations that actually want to move capital for impact in Asia or across Asia. Actually very delighted to be here, and congratulations to everyone at the King Bhagwan Foundation for all the amazing work that you have done over the past 50 years, and more importantly, for your deep friendship and partnership to AVPN over the last 15 years. It's deeply appreciated. Philanthropy, to me, professionally, we are a network that drives capital towards impact. A large portion of that capital is philanthropic capital. We have almost 800 organizations that are our members, and 40% of what they give is through philanthropy, through grants. And just to give you an idea of size, for our network, last year they gave in excess of $200 billion towards impact in Asia. So 40% of that came through philanthropy, so it's really important. But more important than what it means to me professionally is, what does philanthropy mean to me personally, to me as Nena. I grew up in India, and I grew up in a country at a time when it was socialist. I went to a convent school, and I come from a culture in which philanthropy has existed for a very long time. In Asia, philanthropy forms a part of your life. You don't have to be rich to be a philanthropist. In fact, I think every one of us is a philanthropist because, your values tell you that you give. And for me, I've always believed that the fact that I'm sitting here in this room with all of you means I come from great privilege. And when I started out, I didn't do anything to earn that privilege. I was born to it. I won the genetic lottery. We heard this morning, because I was born to the family that I was born to, I didn't have to struggle to survive. I got a meal, I got fed, I got sent to school, I was safe, I was not a victim of sexual violence. All of that means that I'm very privileged. And what does privilege mean? You give back. And what is the best way to give back? It's through philanthropy. So to me, philanthropy is giving whatever you can without any expectation of return in order to make the world a better place.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an enormous pleasure for me to have you on my left side here. I will ask you the same question. What is your past, present, and future link with philanthropy?
Well, first of all, I am incredibly honored to be sitting on the panel with all of you. I am also very intimidated to be speaking to so many people, but I think that nothing will top my very embarrassing encounter with Kristen Davis yesterday, so I think I'm fine. And to answer your question, I would like to tell you a little bit about me. For one, because I love to talk about myself. So I was born in Guinea, the Republic of Guinea, And when I was 9 years old, my mother fled the country with my sister and I. So we didn't undergo female genital mutilation. We arrived in Belgium in 2007, and we were granted asylum that same year, but then followed many, many years of financial insecurity. My mother, who was a single mother, had my sister and I. It was difficult, especially with my sister being absolutely insufferable. And so I had to become the second provider of the household. And I would cover the bills, pay for clothes for my sister and I. And to be honest with you, I was filled with anger. I was angry at the world. I was angry at the odds, because I could see through my peers what being born in the right country and into the right family could give. So I was hopeless, let's put it like that, until philanthropy found me. And philanthropy has given me so many, many, many opportunities that led me here. Today I study journalism. I'm doing a master's degree in journalism, and I was able to travel to get into the United World College program. I went to Costa Rica. I studied. I learned English, and so philanthropy for me was, to say it in a really cheesy way, my savior. It is part of my life. It has given me so much. And so, yeah, I think that's what I would say.
And especially it will give it. And we are now very, very curious to hear your answers on the next questions, but that's a teaser. Raphaël, la galanterie est le privilège de l'homme. So that is why you are the last of the 4 panelists, which I will ask the question to. So, yes, Raphaël, what is your past, present, and future link with philanthropy?
All right, good afternoon, Ludwig. Thanks a lot for the invitation, for having me here. I'm very pleased to be here on this stage, sharing the stage with you. It's an honor. Thank you to all the organizers. My name is indeed Raphaël Liégeois. I'm an astronaut with the European Space Agency. And I'm currently in training part-time in the United States, part-time in Europe for a mission to the International Space Station next year. And who knows, maybe one day I will follow the same tracks as the ones who left this night to the moon, but that's another story. My background is in biomedical engineering. I'm a neuroscientist. I had a first life, I would say, as a neuroscientist for 10 years. And in 2022, I was selected along with 4 classmates as part of the 2022 class of ESA, ESA astronauts. And my link to philanthropy is starting, I would say, because as part of this mission to the International Space Station, I wanted to share this adventure, this space adventure, as widely as possible. And I see philanthropy, among other things, but also as a means to increase the impact of different initiatives, of different projects. And so that's why I've decided to collaborate with KBF to live this space adventure together in order not to have this as a personal project, but really as a shared adventure to space.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your applause. The panel will need it because now comes the difficult question. A world without philanthropy. Nina, I will turn to you. Imagine a world without philanthropy. What would happen?
I think we'd be in a very bleak place. To me, I think, more than anything else, philanthropy is a way of lifting us up, lifting both the person who does the philanthropy and the person who receives the philanthropy. And I think it's important to just think about that for a minute. You are a philanthropist only because somebody receives your philanthropy. Just think about that. We spend so much time lifting up the billionaires, the philanthropists who feel so great that they are making a difference in our world. They are lucky to be given that privilege to make a difference. You are given that privilege. You should use that privilege wisely. It is the fact that you have the ability to make a difference in your own life. You have the ability to leave the world a better place, better than what you found it. That's a huge privilege. It's also a huge responsibility. So if we did not have philanthropy, I think we would be, all of us, we're already in a pretty hopeless world, unfortunately. We would be in an even more hopeless world if we can believe that. Philanthropy gives hope to the person who is giving that philanthropy, and philanthropy gives hope to someone who's receiving it, because I think Ma put it really well. A lot of people, there's a lot of anger. It's not something you've chosen. It's not something the people whose countries have become battlefields without their acceptance or their desire. They didn't choose that. It's a place where you're very, very hopeless. And if someone there sees you and they see you for the person you are, not the position you're put in, and they give you a helping hand, that is better than anything else. So without that, without philanthropy, I think we would be in a very dark place. And that's why I think again and again I say, each one of us is a philanthropist. If you actually look at the statistics, you talked about $1 trillion in philanthropy. Most of that comes from everyday household giving. Everyday household givers across the world. They are the ones that make up 60% of that $1 trillion. The ones who give between $10 to $100 a day, those are the ones who are the philanthropists that we celebrate.
you mentioned a dark place. Tina, should we be afraid of that? Is it a possible scenario? How I nearly dare to ask that question.
Oh, thank you. I get the easy ones, right?
Yeah. How is this question addressed in the US? Is there an alternative?
Well, it is interesting, actually, that you give me the question on the dark place. You and I did not actually script this because as I've been reflecting on the question since you sent it to me, and it was very interesting to think about what if philanthropy didn't exist, because actually I think we just take it for granted. I mean, it is a fact of life. It's something, I've been a philanthropist when I was a lawyer donating. I've raised money constantly. You just take it for granted. So this opportunity, today to step back from that. And when I thought about, what if philanthropy didn't exist, I did go to the dark place because I think, look, Nana, you just said it, that individual givers are giving. It is part of our human nature, I believe. That is why philanthropy, we take it for granted. It is, as humans, I think it's what makes us human among the mammals on the earth, is this ability to be empathetic, to look to someone, to see something that's happening and want to do something about it, as opposed to just concentrate on our own survival. And so it's within our nature. So if philanthropy didn't exist, I think it doesn't exist because we are then truly in an autocracy. It will not exist because someone has compelled us to go against our human nature, to give, and that is the place that we will be at. Conversely, I think the way to combat where those dark places are is through philanthropy. That philanthropy is the ultimate in freedom of expression because you get to choose, how much to give, when to give, what to give it to, and how to invest. And hopefully what you're giving it to is consistent with your values, that it comes back to who you are, what do you value, what do you want to support. And it is through that giving and philanthropy that the true ability to fight against those who would be autocratic, those who would control, those who would try to keep our populations under control and not able to reach their full potential. I really do believe, and it had not come to it till, honestly, you forced me to think about this question, is that philanthropy is so essential to this fight, against autocracy. And I would urge everyone here to really think about that, because it is that freedom of expression that we express most clearly and deeply in what we choose to give our time and treasure to. That is the greatest expression of what we think is important. And I commend everyone here because you've started to do that. It's a time to double down on that right now.
Yeah, thank you. Raphael, you will, if you want to applaud, don't hesitate. Raphael, you will take some heights soon. You will, yes, you most probably will have one of the most beautiful views on our beautiful planet. So, how would the world look like without philanthropy? Did you have the time to in your busy schedule, to reflect on that?
Well, it's very interesting to be here and to hear the different perspectives on this question, and it is a rich question, in my opinion. The way I approach that one is, in my perception, more related to the fact that philanthropy relates to dreams, relates to ideals, and we need that. We need that as when we are teenagers, we want to invest, Tina just mentioned that we want to invest our time and energy in something meaningful. So we need that, and well, typically what I feel, and the reason why I'm in the space industry, if I can frame it that way, now is also because space is one area where people all together look in the same direction, where we share an enthusiasm for collective progress, some sort of collective progress. There are many different ways of nurturing that progress. But I think it's important, yes, to have these ideals, to have projects that we really believe in, and without philanthropy we would have much less of these. And I think for our generation, even more so maybe for the next generations, making sense of what they do, what they put their energy and resources in is crucial, and I'm very happy about that, of course. And I think that's the main role of philanthropy, and that's where philanthropy is useful.
Thank you. Ma, when we had the preparatory call, you had stars in the eyes, and you said, look, if you ask me the question, what if philanthropy would disappear, I will tell you a story, you to me, I will tell you a story where you will see that you will have no arguments after that. And so I ask you the question, and you will not tell that to me, but you will tell that to all the audience.
Thank you. So to give you a little bit of context, I live in Paris right now. I'm doing 3 internships, one at Arte and one at France 24. And about a month ago, I met one hell of a woman. Her name is Judith, but we'll be calling her Judith because I find it really impossible to pronounce in English. So Judith is a 30-year-old single mother. She has 3 children, and she is homeless. And she's actually sheltered in a school with her 3 children. So I have a podcast, and I had asked her to come to the podcast and share her story, and she had agreed. And so I followed her in a day in her life, and she told me things that I could relate. She said, oh, you know, this is our little routine. I come to the school, I pick the kids up, we go to church, we pray, and then we go back to the shelter, and we get there right on time for dinner. And however, we've been eating the same thing for the past 2 years. And sometimes these days we just go to bed, we just eat bread and go to bed. And sometimes I cry myself to sleep. And I found her story so moving, and we abruptly lost contact because she was sick, she needed to get surgery, and so I couldn't get to ask her all the questions I wanted to ask her. One thing I had in mind was, Judith, what do you think about at night? What do you pray for? When you see your kids, what kind of future do you imagine for them? Because Judith's kids and me are 2 sides of the same coin. Except I live in a world where philanthropy does exist for me, and her kids live in a world where philanthropy might never exist. And we have similar stories, but it could end very differently. And meeting her made me realize that. And so, yeah, I just think it really highlights why it's so important. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's good enough for you.
You asked this question to me. I will ask the question to the audience now. So if you allow me to turn 1 minute to the audience, I would like to ask you one question. After all what you heard until now of this panel, after all of what you heard during the day, I will ask you a very simple question. Should philanthropy continue to exist? If you think yes, you can raise your hands. You know, moderating is sometimes taking personal risks. Should you have not raised your hands, I might have got a personal problem at the end of this day. So thank you for that. But you are also giving us, dear panel, a responsibility now. And so my next question is, you saw what the audience asks us, how will we make philanthropy future-proof? Tina, what should we improve altogether? Which criticism should we address? That's an important one. What should be our common ambition?
Just a few questions, right? Just a few questions. so several things. Having been, both as on a funding side, on a recipient side, on an application side. A few things I think, and I think the current moment make them even more important as philanthropists. One is, and I think this conference is such a great example of it, is collaboration. We so often, as activists or as NGOs, we are working on our own separate issues. I come out of a long history of working in the women's movement. We are the most fragmented. Every movement probably says that they're the most fragmented. I think the women's movement right now is the most fragmented. When I was in the White House with President Obama, I had the privilege of running the White House Council on Women and Girls, where we did all of the gender policy in the Obama administration. But we were the only place where all the gender groups would come, because there are the groups that work on domestic violence, then there are the groups that work on childcare, then there are the groups that work on equal pay, then there are the groups that work on education. And none of them talked to each other, but they talked only to us. And now that we're not there anymore, they're again not talking to each other. But I would say to them, women do not live their lives in those silos. There's a woman who's a single mom who's trying to get her kids fed, get herself a job, get herself health care, find a place to eat and sleep. That is their lives, and yet we have so fragmented our work. And so philanthropy as donors can have a huge role in making sure you're funding collaboration work, funding and encouraging collaboration work, and breaking down those silos. Number two, the other thing that's really hard when you are a recipient of funding is, what we don't do often, I think, and well in philanthropy is fund for the long term. We are driven to find the ROI. We are, feel compelled by, sometimes we are compelled by the individual donors who are giving to our foundation to then re-grant, who are looking for the ROI because they come from the business world. Renee and I were talking about that earlier today. And, also by the desire to show impact, right? I get that question all the time, what do you do to show impact? But some of the most sustainable change requires deep, long-term investment. That's, for example, why, we're investing in cultivating young leaders and educating young girls and young men and boys of color at the Obama Foundation. But that's not an impact you will necessarily see in a 6-month or a 12-month or even a 24-month cycle. We want to invest in leaders who will 10 years from now change the world. And so as philanthropy, we need to get a much more long-term view and an ability to do that. It is actually the thing that philanthropy can do that government cannot. Because government exists on 2-year, 4-year election cycles. And, so it is always bound to try to do that. And then, something doesn't work in 2 years, they're on to the next thing. But philanthropy has the opportunity to do that long-term investment, but I don't think we do it. We don't do it enough. We don't do it well. So those are some of the things I think that are the opportunities, and they're essential now, to go back to the dark place that we're in. The changes that need to be made right now require more sustained fundamental change. There's systemic changes that need to be addressed. And that just requires that long-term vision and a willingness on philanthropy to accept some setbacks. Long-term investment means you're gonna have some down years before you get the up years, but you have to be able to weather that storm, and philanthropists need to stick with those organizations through the valleys, to get to the peaks. And, I think now more than ever, that's an approach that we need to take collectively as philanthropists.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina. I know, Nena, that you are burning to speak about the collaborations, but few minutes. Raphael, you said that you were slowly approaching philanthropy, and that was part of your future plans. How did you get in touch? Do you think that the philanthropic sector is communicating enough on philanthropy? And how do you see a mix of your experience and the good that you want to do?
Well, so the way I got in touch actually with philanthropy, if we think of philanthropy more at large, was when I was a young student, more or less in engineering, And it was during a few information sessions and training that were provided by the Belgian Development Agency. So Coopération Technique Belge, formerly now it's Enabel, I think. And I think these information sessions are crucial because we have a lot of misconceptions, wrong ideas about what philanthropy is, what these development agencies that have common projects with what, for example, KBF has. And I remember going there because again, I was in these questions of how do I make sense of what I do in my life and things like that. And coming back with mixed feelings, I would say. For example, I remember seeing a couple of people who who dedicated their lives to projects in remote countries. I don't remember exactly which countries, and who came back. And I felt they were almost depressed because they saw that when they were there was a little change, and then when they left, everything came back as before, and so there was not this lasting effect that you were mentioning. And so I think defining and identifying how we have long-lasting effects is really hard, and defining relevant projects is really hard. And I think there are different ways of doing that, but my way of trying to engage in this type of virtuous circles was to engage into scientific research and teaching. Because I had the impression that it was something that was ticking all my boxes to contribute to that collective effort. So I think these initiatives of education about what philanthropy is, what it is not, are super important. I benefited from it. I don't know if these information sessions or training, it was 4 times a weekend, I think, back 15 years ago. But I think this is crucial if we want these efforts to be sustainable, as Tina just mentioned.
Thank you. Really an important message. Talking about education, young leaders, you said it, young leaders, education, planting seeds to grow trees. You, as a representative of the younger generation, may I ask you, do you think that your generation is already fully convinced by philanthropy, and how should young people be motivated to engage?
So before I answer your question, I would like to talk to all the young people in the room tonight. I did not ask to be the representative here tonight. I was put in the spot, I didn't ask. So if you disagree, please feel free to say something. But on a more serious note, I think maybe the question isn't whether or not we believe in philanthropy, but I think it's more about whether or not we feel included in philanthropic programs. I think in order for us to start looking at philanthropy again, maybe we should see people like us in decision-making rooms. I think, yeah, that's the only way. If you include us, come to us, ask us what our needs are. I think that way not only will we be more interested in philanthropy, but we'll also want to be part of it. I think it is as simple as that.
And when you said, when you want to engage us, you looked to me, so know that I don't want to represent the older generation on my own as well. So, Nena, Tina said it already about collaborations. You are the expert of collaborations in Asia. What motivates you? What drives you? What is the importance of those collaborations, of those dialogues between major philanthropic stakeholders to secure the reputation of philanthropy and the impact?
Like Ma, I'm going to now be speaking for all of Asia. No, I mean, you know, it's interesting. We're in a philanthropy conference. Other than talking about AI, collaboration is the word that we have to talk about. Collaboration, catalytic, How do we risk taking? I mean, if we don't talk about that, then we are not philanthropists and we are not in a philanthropy conference. But cynicism aside, I mean, collaboration is important. What we don't acknowledge often enough is that collaboration is bloody hard. It's really, really difficult. The reason it's difficult is because most of the time when I talk about collaboration, I am saying, how will you collaborate with me? How will you work on my project? It's very rarely about, let's come and think about a project together. It's always about, come, I have the wonderful project. You don't want to participate? You're not collaborative. So, that's unfortunately the reality. So collaboration is really tough. But the reality is also that, given the mess that we have created in the world around us, not one of us, not one organization, not one government, not one foundation, doesn't matter how large, rich, powerful it is, can help find the solution. We have to come together. The collaboration has to be on all sides. And I loved what you said, Ma, which is, ask us what we think, put us in the decision-making power. I will say, when we talk about collaboration, we must have an equal power sharing platform or a table where we have philanthropists, we have beneficiaries, we have other stakeholders who are all coming together on a level playing field. Without that, collaborations are bound to fail. Unfortunately, what happens a lot of the times is that those who have the money also have the power. And just by having the money, you don't necessarily know the solution to the problems. I mean, if you know how to make a semiconductor, does that mean you know how to solve for poverty? Bit of a stretch, no? So I think we need to listen. We need to bring other people. And I will quote my colleague Kurt, who's sitting in the first row. We run something called the Global Leadership Academy. And I think it's one of the most wonderful things we do. It's really looking at those who are not here. It's looking at leaders of community-based organizations who actually work on solutions on the ground, who come together to talk about what leadership means to them. And, one of them, I think, told Kurt that the theory of change is the most sort of colonial statement that funders put on nonprofits. What is your theory of change? How shall we now evaluate it before we fund you? So, that doesn't help in collaboration. We need to come up with a joint theory of change. We need to look at what is the solution together. And we need to collaborate together, philanthropist and implementing organization and intermediary together to find the solution. And that's when collaborations work.
Can I add something?
Of course.
I want to
have very little filter, guys. I apologize in advance if I'm offending anybody.
Nate and I have already bonded today. but I want to add on about what's hard about collaboration. And since this isn't a room full of philanthropists, having tried to build and fund collaborations is, guess what? Collaboration costs money to do. Just the very convening and that power, it takes time and energy and funding. But guess what? It's not direct service. And so a lot of times it is very difficult. Part of the reason the collaborations don't happen a lot is they aren't funded. It's an activity that is not directly related to the delivery of service on the ground. And so many donors will not fund it. And even though it is, for all the reasons Nana just identified, really difficult to do. So one of my challenges to all of us is to think about those. Think about those activities like funding the collaboration work, not the collaboration end result, the collaboration work it takes to get to that end result as a fundable, really desirable, needed thing to put your money towards.
That does not easy my last question. You may answer anything you want, but not collaboration, because there we are already convinced. We are all already convinced. My final question, can you give us all one reason to believe in philanthropy and one strong advice takeaway to the European philanthropic sector? to keep or not philanthropy high on the agenda. And this time, Raphael, may I start with you?
Yes, sure. So it was a pleasure to be here to learn a bit more about all the different facets of philanthropy. It's very exciting to see that and to be starting this adventure with you. Maybe a small word about indirectly related to Artemis, but I listened to the interview of NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman a few days ago for the Artemis launch, so that was to prepare that launch. And a large part of his speech and announcement was about how philanthropy is also helping the space sector in different areas. It can be observation of the universe, it can be human space flight. But there is also space for philanthropy in space in the United States for now, but I would be very happy if in Europe we would follow that lead as well.
Very clear, very clear. Ma, may I ask you the same question?
Today, I speak to you as a journalist, but also as a direct beneficiary of philanthropy. As I said earlier, to put it in a really cheesy way, philanthropy does change lives. And as I said, before philanthropy found me, I was very resentful of the world, of the odds. And if you don't invest in philanthropy, first of all, you'll have a lot of angry women in the world, angry little girls like me. But no, I think, yeah, that's the takeaway. I would say it's important because there are so many talented, smart, brilliant little girls and boys in the world that don't get to explore that because they have so much on their plate already. And I think that's very unfair, to be honest. And so yes, please invest in those little girls and boys. But I would like to take the question, the main theme a bit further. I think it's important to ponder over whether or not, what the world would look like if philanthropy did not exist. But I would like us to take this a little bit further. Instead of asking what would the world be without philanthropy, maybe let's try to build a world where philanthropy should not exist. Not to put anyone out of job, but I think that's also a very relevant question to ask. So
I think we have the team for Be Philanthropy 2029. Thank you, Ma, for that. Tina.
So one takeaway, one piece of advice, right? So I think my takeaway is, and I often think of this and express it, is, you know, the big thing about philanthropy is, and Nena said it earlier, is actually, as a donor, you get much more out of it than you ever give away. My best friends in life, really, 50 years worth of friendships have come from the philanthropic work and activist work that I have done. You know, the work to struggle together, the work to sort of give, you know, the richest, deepest relationships have in my life have come not from my day job work relationships, but my philanthropic and individual relationships. And I think that's the hidden secret that we have to make not so hidden, especially to donors, is that you will be far more enriched than any amount you ever give away by what you see, by seeing the results of your philanthropy and someone like Emwa, to sort of the co-workers you find along the way in doing such meaningful work. And I think that is a takeaway, and it's something we need to be more open about and encouraging about. And my advice is, you know, I think here to European philanthropy is be bold. This is a time for all of us to take the challenge to actually be bold, to get outside of our normal giving patterns and comfort patterns. The times mean we should be bold. the future means. We're separate apart from the political environment. The future we're stepping into, Raphael, I look at you, that future in space, the future of AI. The world is on the cusp of tremendous change, and philanthropy should be bold to meet this incredible transformational moment that we're in by the times that we have the privilege to be living in. And so, being bold, I'll give you that as your 29. 2029 theme, I think, is the moment that we need to seize, Fawn.
Thank you, Nina. I'm writing down all those ideas. Nina.
Okay, one takeaway and one piece of advice. I'll start with the piece of advice. For European philanthropy has a long history. I come from a continent where giving is as old as time, but we don't have many institutions of philanthropy. For us, institutional giving is very new. For you, you've had institutions of philanthropy for generations. Where I think it would be interesting for European philanthropists and for European philanthropy organizations is actually, build your exchange a little bit more with the global south, with Asia, with Africa, and also engage with the newer philanthropic organizations that are there. You'll be surprised how interesting and how much I think both sides can learn from each other. When I come to Europe, I find that Asia is not here as much. But I think Asia should be here to sort of engage with you, collaborate with you, learn with you. And similarly, I think Europe should be in Asia much more. And I'm hoping that, that's something that we can have that happens as a result of things that KBF and others are doing. In terms of the takeaway, we are talking about investment in philanthropy. And when we talk about investment, what is it that we look at? We look at returns. Philanthropy can actually give you outsized returns if you're bold, as what Tina said, if you actually take the risks. Come on, all of us in the room, how much we've talked about how risk capital philanthropy is. But honestly, if we look at ourselves and we think about it, we are the most risk-averse when it comes to making philanthropic decisions. We are always looking at, is this going to work? Can you tell me if it's going to work in 3 years? How the hell do I know if it's going to work in 3 years if I don't take a chance and do it? So, but if it works, can you imagine the magic that we can create? So the return is far more outsized than the investment we're going to put in. So let's take a chance. Let's take a chance, and let's not use the excuse that, today there's a war, or tomorrow there's an epidemic, or day after the world is going to pot, because it is, all of that, and we need to look at our strategy. Not an excuse. Don't stop. Act now, be bold, take a risk, and you will make a return far greater than any of your financial investments.
How can I conclude after that? Dear Ma, dear Tina, dear Raphael, dear Nena, you told us we were living in a transformative moment where we have to collaborate, where we have to invest, where we have to fund for the long term, where we have to educate, where we have to be bold. All this will build a world where philanthropy is not needed anymore. Thank you to you, thank you to the panel. Applause, and back to you, Eve.